Okay, I'm gonna try out these Quiet Ride earmuffs, which are supposed to make it easier to block out the noise from riding at high speeds. Now, I ride with a Senna, I think this is a 20C, and I've upgraded the speakers once, trying to get it loud enough and clear enough for me to be able to communicate. I also upgraded to a helmet that was known for being really quiet, and even with all of that, at over 70 miles an hour on my Africa Twin, I can't communicate with my brothers worth a darn. Music is okay at best, and there's no way you could do a podcast or anything like that, or a book, and get enough of it. So wanted to try installing these in my helmet, see if that makes a difference. This helmet is a really well thought out helmet. The cheek pads have covers that are removable so you can wash them, which is really nice because sometimes we ride long distance in dusty areas and get everything dirty. The speakers mount, they have a little spot where the speakers mount really well in here. And now my question is going to be how to get this to fit in place of that little speaker spot and then get my speaker inside of there. Now granted, I got my Quiet Ride earmuff kit a while ago, but the adhesive used to hold this onto the rubber just isn't very good. So I'm not sure if that's going to actually hold anything on the way I need it to be, which is kind of a bummer. These things hook to a little pump, and you pump them up to push the actual muffs into place tight against your head, which is really cool. Now this helmet is super tight, so I had to take the cheek guards all the way out, and I'm thinking about just leaving those in, but they've got to be able to stay in pretty tight for me to get my ears in and out of there. So we'll see if this actually can work. So you get a couple of these Velcro pads, which are going to go right in here, and they're cut to fit really well. I may trim just a little bit there, but that looks like that'll work. And then this has also the same, this off side of the Velcro, and then this is going to go in between each side if it will stay on. On the back, the Velcro is very tough, so I suspect that's going to hold on. So it might just be a problem of this being a rubber bladder and having a hard time finding any kind of adhesive that'll work on that. This is what they're going to do when they inflate, so you can control how tight they are against your ear. Second one is in. It's not going anywhere. Now the bladder is going to go in like so. And then these are going to get routed around to the back. I think I'm going to end up having to trim this, but I'll set it up basically before I do that. This you just push the tube over and it kind of grabs onto that, so it's not going anywhere. Now, from the T, you need a little bit of tubing to go to the pump. So I'm gonna just trim off a little chunk of this. Should be fine. They give you ample amounts of this stuff. Looks like once you've got it hooked up, start working the pump, and those bladders fill up, and then to release, you push that button. Pretty cool. For this experiment, I'm just taking and setting my speaker, which is an aftermarket speaker, hooked to my Senna, and then I'm just taking this foam and putting it back in to keep the speaker in place. I imagine that doesn't give me a perfect seal since I got that wire up there, but just by practicing with them on, this thing blocks out a ton of noise. So I'm just gonna see if it works and if I can actually get my head in this super tight fitting helmet. So it'll be something like that. stuff will go under there. It'll hold my speaker in place. In the center helmet, these seem to fit really well kind of in this little spot where my cheek guards were. So the question will now be, can I get my head in there and then pump this thing up? Okay, it's a tight fit, but when I start pumping this up, these things get even closer to my head. Like any space that was, oh man, it holds it in really tight. I gotta hear what this actually sounds like with my Senna on. Well, the sound works great. Using the little pump definitely changes the sound of the music, so you got to find the right zone. I can tell there is going to be a breathing problem, so there's going to be a sweat buildup in here that there may not be in the rest of this helmet. This helmet has, I don't know, like 15 vents. It's so vented, you can control it really well. But these are going to change the dynamic, and there's no cheek pad here, which would have blocked a lot of noise, but I don't think it'll matter because this thing is so dense. I can barely hear myself snapping my fingers. So ultimately, this is how I've got it hooked up. Pads Velcroed on the bladders, speakers underneath that, tubing running underneath and around. I used both of the connectors to hold this in place right here. There's my pump, there's my release. Looks like it should be easy to use while I'm riding. I didn't want it on the side because I don't want it flapping around. I guess I could have secured that, but I think this will be okay back there. If not, I'll move it around. And I'm gonna be trying it out in a couple of days. So we'll see how the Quiet Ride earmuffs actually work on this helmet.